Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Today I'm going to review the Certina DS Super PH1000M. And this is a limited edition watch. There's a non-limited edition, basically just like this, but with a black dial. And these are reissue watches, if you want to call them that, of timepieces, not exact reissues, but of watches that Certina made around the year 1970. And this is a 1,000-meter dive style watch. And there's a lot of interesting things to say about it. I think one of the things I like most about it is the case is really beautifully engineered and architected. It has, it is a dive style watch, meaning it was designed to be a very serious professional dive watch. It has, like I said, 1,000 meters of water resistance, which especially then was a really big deal, which is actually, good today. It's actually quite thin for a 1,000-meter watch. It's got that automatic helium release valve, and it has a thick unidirectional rotating bezel you need to actually push down to move because it'll lock otherwise. So it's meant to be a serious diving tool because of the time it needed to be. But in addition to that, it's also really pretty. And this was something that you found at the time because these watches were all, of course, designed by hand and modeled by hand, and they just couldn't help but make them pretty. And I think dive watches today, not all of them, but many of them lack this elegance that you have in a watch case like this. So maybe you have a different opinion about it, I don't know, but I just found this to be very elegant. There's a lot of little tricks in here, like I said, all the rounding to make it feel thinner than it actually is. This is a 43 millimeter wide watch. It's not super thick. It's just over 14 millimeters thick. But again, what I like about this, 43.5 millimeters wide. But what I like about it is that it wears smaller than the size suggests. And part of that, again, is because this rounding, but also the dial itself is quite petite. The dial, I think, is around 28 millimeters wide. And you know that a hallmark of a smaller watch, of course, is a more narrow dial. So there's a little bit of that. I'll put it on the wrist so you can sort of see how it wears. You have, again, more of a modern case back here. This is the Certina turtle logo. And if you're wondering where that comes from, well, sea turtles are in the water. And if you look at this profile here, it kind of looks like the outline of a turtle shell. This limited edition dial in what I called sea slug yellow, again, I don't know why this is limited and the black one's not. I don't know why, maybe they didn't think that this would do well enough, but if you're an enthusiast, I think you're going to want the sort of cool original color. The minute hand there is a slightly darker orange, but the overall colors on the dial look great. I find it very legible. But again, compared to some of the modern dive watches, the dial is going to look like, basically like, I don't know, maybe not half the size, but 60% of the size of a lot of them. But again, that's a look that a lot of people like. So if you want a big watch with a smaller wearing experience, again, this Super DS is the way to go. The movement inside of this, Certina is part of the Swatch group, and they have ETA. So this is the ETA Powermatic caliber 80.611. This is a 3 hertz movement with 80 hours of power reserve. It is quite accurate, even though it is 3 hertz. And again, the Powermatic, basically, the trade-off is that longer power reserve of 80 hours. And you really basically exclusively see these in watches within the Swatch group. And they're not very expensive. Again, this is as a reissue vintage diver watch. That's a limited edition from a brand like Certina. This is a good price. The strap, again, is that sort of traditional diver-style strap with that stretchiness. I found it to be a bit long, which, again, it needs to be if you're going to wear it over a wetsuit. But, again, I have small wrists, and I figure there'll be other people with small wrists wearing this. So it's a little bit on the longer side there, but, again, not that big of a deal. I could actually pull this over a little bit more to get a little bit more of a snug fit there. There you can see it on the wrist, again, 43.5 millimeters wide, but it does, I think you'll admit, have a little bit of a more petite wearing experience to it, but it is a very handsome watch. It grew on me. I think when I saw just pictures of this, I was like, okay, I've seen tons of watches like this before, but the overall just composition and how cohesive everything is and how it has that classic element. I mean, it definitely looks like it's for diving. It's a no-nonsense diver that's about as pretty as can be. There's no really compromises. I mean, I've been diving. I'm a diver. I can see myself strapping this on. It goes with the gear. And I think this is sort of an underrepresented watch. The problem is that basically everything at Certina is called DS. So I think that when you go on the website, it's very difficult to know like which of these Certinas should I look at because there's a lot of overlap in names and even pricing. But this is definitely a standout piece. Limited to 1,000 pieces for this limited edition version. Again, the black one is not limited. And the retail price for the Certina Super DS DS Super PH1000M is just 970 Swiss francs. You can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks.